Well, that's it, everybody. That's the film. Alex's War. We did it. We did
We
it.
sure did. We sure did.
The whole movie. So, what are your final thoughts, just off the cuff, like of after watching it? How do you feel?
I think I had a lot more fun watching it with you than I did by myself. I don't think I would have finished it by myself, or at least in like one sitting.
Yeah,
I probably,
yeah,
I probably would have switched over to the tuck or whatnot. So, but no, and it's just not a knock on that because I like the like subject, but it just the whole time I was waiting for like to get to like a point, and like we said very early on, it was just kind of a bit choppy
yeah.
and just kind of
I
all
think
over the place.
I
And
think the only point that it made was that Alex Jones has a legacy.
mhm.
Like kind of what I said before. Like I think that it's about like his influence, his legacy, that he has been consistent in terms of
Yeah,
like his rhetoric and what he says.
yeah,
And when the title of the film, Alex's War, it's about his war against globalism. It's his war against the system, etc. And he's always kind of a contrarian in a way.
right.
Even I thought just like the framing of the January 6th stuff, like I understand, but I also think it was way too much,
Hmm.
way too pronounced. Trami says a pretty decent, a bit anemic. It lacked narrative. Not that it had to make a specific point, but it had to be going somewhere. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
and I agree. It feels like kind of amorphous
yeah.
and nebulous in a way.
No, no, absolutely. But it's just, and like still feel too, like like what was the schedule like for this? Was it rushed? They had some really like well edited like scenes, like like production overall production value. I think it was like, but they had some great parts too. But it just felt fucking rushed. It's a
Well,
2 hour thing, and you felt like rushed
I mean,
with it.
no, I think so. Like it brushes over so many things that are like
Mm-hmm.
kind of seems like very important to his history
Mm-hmm.
that and it seems like so much of it was because of like getting into the zeitgeist of the January 6th stuff. Like it sacrificed a lot of showing you so much of that stuff.
Yeah.
Where I feel
Or
like
the or
you could have got the point of that with much less footage, etc. Like I understand like the general thesis of the film is that like this is Alex's war and this is what
mhm.
he's been fighting forever since he started. Like I get that, but I don't think it like gave a good sense of like his character or who he is
No.
really like as a real person.
Well, who did they talk to? Who did they talk? Because it was like clips of Alex like talking the entire time.
The only other person that they have that he knows is his old cameraman.
The cameraman, right?
That's
And
it.
the other guy, the Twinkie looking dude from that he said was the number two guy.
Well, Owen Schroyer, but he's like part of the
But that was
apparatus.
yeah,
Like, yeah, he's
but even so, like he didn't even like real talk. You get to his son, like it's like 10 seconds, like near the end of it, right? So like so I wouldn't like really call this like a document. I don't know. It wasn't really like a document. It was more like a I don't know, like fresh off of like the face with no girlfriend. Like I think that just immediate reaction that like that was a better film for this, and I don't know if it's because of the subject matter. That makes sense, or whatnot, or because that was like a niche thing on the internet with like types of like people, and this is Alex Jones who is so influential and part of like the zeitgeist that we spoke about
yeah.
earlier, and that you have a certain thing like you like what. Or like one of our criticisms, like why didn't they talk about like the 2016 election at all? Like that's what really got things going. There's a lot of gold out of that, right? So everyone's going on about like oh, this is what you should focus on or what you're not. And when you look at a guy who has like 30 years of a body of work, what do you extract from that to like
Yeah.
push on that thing? So if that is your main thesis, like his war is like the government has a hand in every single like atrocious event in human history, and like American
Well,
history. Like, what do you extract to just facilitate that through, like, and make it cohesive and coherent to,
and I think,
drive that point
but
home?
like, if that was our takeaway, right? Like, because I think that is what she's building towards. Are we to believe that she is suggesting that he's right about January 6th or he's right about the election? Will time tell
I
us
don't.
that Alex Jones was right? Like, I don't really. That's where it starts getting kind of messy for me a little bit. Like, I don't really understand the need for, I don't know, the framing I think is just like opportunistic, just because it's in the zeitgeist right now with the January 6th stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I don't know. I didn't it didn't really land for me, honestly.
Yeah.
I just thought, and maybe that's, maybe if you were like a normie and you didn't know anything about Alex Jones, this would be way more interesting
Right.
or
No, I
revelatory.
think I think my parents would be all about this one, actually.
Actually, yeah, probably,
You
probably
know,
give them, hook them up with our with our Odyssey account.
the
Patriots says all in all it was a pretty good, kind of boring at times, but you guys made it through with flying colors. Thanks. It will
well,
be
thanks,
interesting to
buddy.
see what books are written about him. Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, guys,
Hmm.
and watching it. Travis says this felt like a clip show. Yes, I think it did feel like a little bit like a clip show.
Tarami, don't you feel like that's what we did last Friday? Like, did we just do the same thing, but with just a better clip? You know?
Actually, yeah, honestly, it did feel a little bit like last Friday. Like it's almost like we preempted this too much because we kind of like gave the game
Like we did the
away.
same. Like we did the same film, right?
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. I mean, she goes farther back. It was
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
interesting to
No,
kind of
no,
like
like.
get a good handle on his roots
Hmm.
and his start in broadcasting. Like that stuff was actually pretty fascinating. Just to see, because he is a figurehead of that stuff. He's like a grandfather of that stuff,
Hmm.
of somebody that's like, oh, look at public access, look what we can do. And then he's one of the first people to pivot that into larger success.
Yeah.
Travis says, I think if it wanted to focus on January 6th, they needed to trace his work over the years backwards from there to show how did Alex Jones end up here specifically, rather than just being someone with lots of general opinions. Yeah, and I think that's what she was trying to do. I think that was what she was trying to do by suggesting that, like, the title of the film is Alex's War, is that he has always been a person that stands against this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
He's always somebody that fights corruption, fights the government, kind of no matter what. And it's kind of left up to you to decide whether or not you feel like it is a blind pursuit. Is
Hmm.
it pure contrarianism, or is it something deeper and more meaningful? So I'll give her that. I'll give her credit for that. I think there is an ambiguity there that allows you, the viewer, to kind of decide for yourself what you want to take away from her film.
Hmm. Yeah. One thing for me too is like I didn't know that he was a big part of like rebuilding the church memoriam for
For Waco, yeah.
The Waco event too. So that that was interesting to me. I didn't know that bit.
Well, I think that's why so many people, like, if you go back, for people that have known about Alex Jones for a long time, they have a lot of respect for him. Like his bona fides are are intact because of his early work.
Hmm.
Because he is a guy, like, whether or not you agree with like the direction he went later in his career when he became more successful, like he is a guy that was about critical thinking, about questioning things, about
Yeah.
going against narratives, about holding people to account.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
not always correct. I don't know, but like he
Right.
was he was one of the first cultural figureheads to really be pushing that shit, and became popular as a consequence of it. Like
Yeah.
he's the real deal, where people like where we have our comedian class, like the Jon Stewarts and the Stephen Colberts, that have like spoke truth to power in the past, while on
Yeah. Yeah.
fucking network and cable television shows
Hmm.
pretended like they did. But Alex
Right.
Jones really did it. He actually
No.
did it,
Yes.
and suffered for it, and
Hmm.
succeeded for it, because
No. Absolutely.
there's an authenticity to what he does that is different. It doesn't feel like it's corporate. It doesn't feel like it's done by mandate.
No, for sure. Uh, yeah, and then and with way less scrutiny than any other public figure ever got. Like the amount of scrutiny, like he's gotten is like someone that ran for office
Oh
too,
no,
which
it's
also feeds into like what makes him popular. Like, well, why would he have so much hate and like fodder and like people trying to like do these hit pieces on him like online? if he wasn't, getting too close to the flame, if he wasn't speaking some truths that, the elite, the government technocrats, don't want people to know about, right? So it's there's so much compact into what makes him up and what surrounds him. So I just, no matter like what you do, like with, if your subject is Alex Jones, it's going to be interesting. It will draw something, and
Yeah.
you're gonna feel a certain way, just like that with the disclaimer. It started off with, this is going to make you feel a certain way,
Well,
and and it did.
But but that actually, the disclaimer actually frames this in a different way. It's like, who the fuck is this for?
Mhm.
I don't know.
And I think it's for somebody that has not like has seen some of the memes, knows a little bit about it in the periphery, and then like walks into this,
which is kind of like what our takeaway of that feeling when no girlfriend. It was like,
Mhm.
oh well, this is kind of for normies. So like for people that have no concept of the subculture.
Mhm.
So maybe there's a utility in that, I suppose.
Yeah. I overall, I think it's like I think it's a good addition, like content addition to like what's out there right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to go out and like say like, oh, like you have to go, like, you go see this, but like but I wouldn't advise against it. Like it was good.
No,
Definitely check it
I
out.
think it's solid enough for a watch for sure.
Yeah.
Like, and especially if you're a person that's not like familiar with this stuff, you may find some of it kind of fascinating if you're like a center right or right leaning person. Like, I think you might find something fascinating about the subculture and what he has to say, etc. I don't know. What do you think is a better documentary in terms of the ones we've watched? Service to the community, service to people. What is a woman or Alex's War? Which one would you
Oh,
like suggest people watch first?
I would. What is woman for sure?
Yeah, so would I.
I would hawk that one like over this one. I think
I think
just in
this is
terms.
better made. I think this is better made, but I think What is a Woman has a much more important cultural message. Like
Yeah,
this doesn't have a
I can
message
agree.
other than like Alex Jones has a legacy. Like you're like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I would say like if Estonitis, like if he watched that, like people like of his ilk, they might be. I don't know. I don't know if it's that like persuasive, but I think it would definitely I think it definitely humanizes it a little more. I don't think
Which
it's
one?
totally. What's
This
that?
one? This
This
one?
current one, yeah,
Yeah.
Alex's War, yeah, for sure. But
I wish it humanized him more. Like that's my big complaint. I kind of wanted like a little bit of peeling back behind the scenes and a little bit more access to him as a man and
you
like
didn't know
and
exactly like
I
where.
didn't need all the B footage. Like it's so much of it is just like it is the for lack of a better way to put it, the character of Alex Jones.
Yeah,
Like that's a
yeah.
lot of it, and I wish that it was just more intimate and got into more of his regular life and
Yeah.
how the things that he does actually like the toll it actually takes on him. And you
Mm-hmm.
could still have the same title, Alex's War, and facilitate the same
Yeah.
you to use
No,
that
I
title
would
to
just like
facilitate
bringing
that
it home to like a
idea.
guttural level too, like friends and family, like go talking to them, like and just like this is what drives my passion. Not only is it like my livelihood, but I believe in this because of this, and then you get like hook, line, and sinker right into the subject because you got a more holistic view of what comprises him and what fuels this subject, and it just
Yeah.
wasn't there. The other closest thing besides his cameraman was like the Rogan thing, like in a video with them.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that old those old Rogan things, which is weird because we have these humanizing Alex Jones things out in the cultural zeitgeist already. One of them, some of them being Joe Rogan interviews
hmm
or the podcast he did with Joe Rogan. Like that is Alex Jones at his most primal and his most natural. Like he's being
hmm
a person, like a real human being. It makes him relatable in the way that he like acts on those shows.
right,
Um, Travis says, agreed. What is a woman? Yeah, I wanted to understand Alex
yeah,
Jones better after this, but I've seen all of this in one way or another already. Yeah,
yeah.
I
We
think
did the
that's
show
fair.
last week, so
I think that's fair. Kato says, right, a primer on Alex Jones for an earnest POV instead of the mainstream media biased one. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Patriot says, I'm going to have to agree with you, Sean. I hung on every word of What Is a Woman. Every interview either made me want to vomit or stand up and cheer. There was a lot missing from his personal life. They did show his son for a few frames, but I mean, how did the fame actually affect him? How did this constant monitoring of the government affect his personal life? I don't think that we got any answers to that. No. And that's the more interesting story than just like a brief overview of his career. Is actually what is this doing to you?
Yeah.
As a person. Like that, if you're going to take the time to make, but maybe that wasn't what Alex wanted, or Alex didn't give her that kind of access. I mean, there's lots of things that go into
of like
why something like this exists, right?
And also too, in light of everything that's going on with him, maybe he did not want to delve in, like,
well,
nobody else needs to know like my shit.
But they get into the Sandy Hook stuff, like, so they bring it up because you have to. And and
it's also well covered, and there's also tons.
I thought they almost lurked on it too long. It's a good 20 minutes of the documentary. It's like, I get it. Like, we've all seen this. Everybody has seen this.
Yeah, but I guess that was supposed to be like, the balance piece of it.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? So
to be fair, to the fairness piece.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest this to people. If you want to know more about Alex Jones or about his life, his operation, check out, it's on YouTube. Law and Crime Network, I think, on YouTube has a lot of the stuff from the defamation trial.
Mm-hmm.
And you go watch the depositions and stuff, like, you will see a much more human side of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty fascinating, just as an observer, somebody I like watching court stuff. It's just something I'm interested in. But it's pretty interesting, and it's pretty interesting to see how lawyers try to get you to say things that you didn't say.
Oh yeah. Well, it's just like primetime, interviewers, on the major networks, so to get you to say what they want you to say.
Yeah,
I would do a quick poll with Patriot Dragon Tarami on it. Would you guys like to see a fucked up movie for like a watch along, or like another fucked up documentary? You don't have to answer it now, but that's something that works.
Something to keep in the. I've actually thought about this for a while. I was like, oh, what if we just started, like, occasionally, not all the time. What if we just picked an old movie and just nightcapped it? It might be fun. Like, do something like a standard. Like, do something like Predator, or Terminator 2, or
Greasy Strangler.
Or the Greasy Strangler. Yeah, I know that's what Paul wants to do. Is the Greasy Strangler. Documentaries are basically Nightcap's bread and butter. We'll always do documentaries. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But anyways, I think that's going to do it for tonight, guys. We're 4.5 hours. Oh my God. This is, a long one for having Big Paul here. Big Paul doesn't know what to do with himself.
No.
I am going to piss myself if I don't stop. This is what's going to happen. Shit. Hold on! Except there would be piss everywhere, not a car crash. Okay. But anyways, thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with us. We have had a great time tonight. I do. Travis says, sorry, I hate the Greasy Strangler. Well,
that's the point.
We kind of love the Greasy Strangler. I made Paul watch it. It was the first time Paul ever did a Zoobox Goes to the Movies with me. We did the Greasy Strangler. I actually, the night before we reviewed it, I sent him a message. I was like, hey, we don't have to do this movie. We could do something different. And he's like, no, dude, we're locked in. I'm
committed. I was committed. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. We'll catch you next time. And so Monday. Look for us on Monday. I think we might be talking some pox. Some monkeypox.
Oh, shit.
Travis says, I'm not even disgusted or anything. I'm just annoyed. That's a fair take. That's a fair take. All right, guys. Good night.
I agree. So just briefly, and you jump in there, Eddie. Let me tell you what my deep research and basically vision is. Okay. And vision just means you're like things crystallize, epiphany. I'm kind of retarded. Marco Rubio the snake. Little frat boy here.
Got it right now, but I don't see it. Secret plan, midnight mission, with emotion. Secret plan, midnight mission, with emotion.
Yet, yes, there's a world government. Yes, there's a new world order.
It's hell! It's a nightmare! It's a science fiction movie!
It's my great
Fuck you, Klaus Schwab. Fuck you! I got plenty of words for you, but at the end of the day, fuck you and your New World Order, and fuck the horse you rode in on, and all your shit.
Secret plan, midnight mission, with emotion. Secret plan, midnight mission, with emotion.
I'm gonna get up right now, and I'm gonna cut my penis off. Come on over here. Come on over here. No, you flip me off. Come on, coward. No. Come on. You're not an intellectual. You're a fake and a fraud.